Yeah.
I remember, just remember yesterday what Joy said at the library. That's very profound related to what Ashley is saying. Because I was really touched yesterday what you said. Answering about certain things, we cannot deal with it. We stay with that stillness. We can just stay with it, and until some better understanding will come out. That's what you said yesterday. I remember that. I was totally touched. Sorry, James.
No, I think it's all I should do, guys. Also, there's a lot of myths kind of built up in our histories. The Chinese among the Chinese, the war was a critical point. A bunch of young guys went out to war, and these people came back, and then because they had the chance to go to war, they were given citizenship, and of course they had to advocate for a change in citizenship and so on. But however, we look deeper into it. This whole group of 19, 20, 21 years that went there, were mostly non-Muslims. They were people that were, and for the Chinese community, there was not that many, we didn't have that many families. So these boys were coddled, they were kept in, they were very precious. So many of them didn't have the physical ability. And a lot of them didn't even get through basic training. There's something that, there's a myth that, these were soldiers that went far behind the hands. There's a whole new mythology that's been built around this idea. And it's not entirely real. And the problem is that, and that is coming to us now, because Paul, myself, and others, we are now going to revise that issue and put a proper human lens to looking at all these situations. And, making it, because otherwise it's just this crazy myth. And that's why we just mouth the myth and we keep thinking that that's the reality. But the alternate is because even for the veterans now, and many of them maybe didn't distinguish themselves because most of them didn't actually see action. Because, by the time that MacArthur was going to march into the Philippines with the atomic bomb and bang, so these guys were never truly soldiers. So they're, in some ways, they looked at themselves and actually fake soldiers. They never saw action. And then, of course, the government did the worst thing. It said, because you guys were special operational and so on, in the next 50 years, you're not allowed to talk. So, but the thing is that when we, in our generation, start asking about it, even though they themselves may not have taken part, but they took on it, that they themselves said, well, we did this. And some people are turning around and saying, oh, we did. So, I mean, there's all these ambiguities. But the thing I'm talking about is that we have to go back and fill in the gaps and put a human face to a lot of the history we're talking about. And we have to recognize that there is a humanity and there's a human quality to that history.
I think the question is whether maybe some gaps don't have to be filled in.
That's true.
And I mean, now we throw around the word, what is it, PTSD? Post-traumatic stress disorder, right? It's very current. It didn't exist 2 decades ago, right? But now we talk about it all the time. I mean, you look back on my father's generation. I'm sure they all came, or most of them came back from the war with various degrees of PTSD. I mean, the same thing could be said about the internment experience. There's so many examples of that. Probably in this city, almost all of us have been touched by it, either directly or indirectly, from some historical context which stretches all over the globe, right? Refugees who come here, in many cases, So then how do you deal with that? Is it better to indulge in, or not indulge is wrong, but better to engage in intense excavation of the trauma, to really, relive it in a way to be able to get rid of it, as opposed to just burying it? My sister and I get in huge arguments about this over our family. I'm sure a lot of people, do we really want grandma to have to remember that? You were asking in your memoir too, is there something excessive about pushing someone to talk about the past, to let you know the things that you feel you need to know? I don't know.
There's a question. Well, actually, it's related to what you're talking about, because I don't know, last week Trio apologized for the Kumagata incident, right? Which was about the ship coming from India. And the question on the weekend on the CBC was this cross-Canada shaka about, do these apologies make a difference? I mean, I stopped listening because, when you start hearing what people really think, it makes me angry. But it just get me thinking a lot about healing. And I was going to ask, in your writing, was there, you didn't use the word healing when you're talking about memory, but was there some idea of healing yourself, your family, or the community in approaching these stories?
I think that the process is very different for different people. So to go back to my memoir, I think that for my father, the character that I represent as my father in the memoir, it was very therapeutic for him, and it was a very sort of meaningful experience to actually get some answers and have those conversations. And then, to my father's credit, when I wrote this memoir, I was quite stressed out in the months leading up to it as to how he would respond to this. But to his credit, he was actually very open-minded and very accepting of the fact that this was something that I needed to do, just as he needed to have those somewhat heated, tense conversations with my grandmother, which probably were not very fun for her. And in the end, I don't know what the effect on her was or how she felt about it. But so I think it's very different depending on the individuals involved, and there's probably not sort of one answer or one model that can sort of magically heal a whole community, because people have very different needs.
Michael?
Listening to this, if I were a novelist, the emphasis on filling in the gaps, in one way, seems to be an excessive burden on the writer, and if they turn to fill in the gaps. But so I'm reading Underground. It's pages, it's 800 pages. It's really thick. And some of it's similar, if you're not familiar with it. But in fact, it's familiar, and yet his powers of observation, things that I've looked at for a long time, some of them look very different. As a consequence, I start feeling different about something I've been looking at for a long time. Now, I don't think one can label that filling in the gap, but the magic, and they're not always magical words and paragraphs and chapters even, but the magical gift that he has is that he's both going over a landscape that is somewhat known, better known, not always known, but he doesn't, his mandate as a writer is not so much to fill in the gaps, but more to kind of change the reader's consciousness and awareness of the complexity of things, both in big terms, but also in terms of his just sheer description of, I don't know, a bar in New York and the Bronx or wherever. And so to return to my major point, I feel sorry for little bit, not sorry, but it is a heavy burden to have to fill in gaps, it seems to me, in terms of one's creative impulse about writing things.
Oh, I guess,
Only she dare answer all the writing
conversation. I think the idea is that when I was thinking of filling the desire to fill in certain gaps or many gaps in, well, in this case, in Japanese Canadian history, I think that many of us are thinking of not necessarily, it's you're drawn to it because there's something unknown and you want to know, and maybe you can't actually, as someone said, fill in everything, but I think